Can I have your attention? Can I have your attention? We'll come to order. Just want to say thank you all for coming out tonight to the September 13th TREPO board meeting. Got a lot of stuff going on. We're culminating a good summer. We've got some elections coming up next month. We've got the annual meeting. So a lot of questions, a lot of interest, and very exciting at this time. So I want to thank you all for coming out and showing the interest to be part of the board and the community. And at this time, what we will do, we will do the invocation. And John, if you would, you'll all stand for the invocation.
Let us all pray. Our God and our Father, we come here tonight as members of TREPO. Dear God, we just thank you for giving us a place to play and work and have a good time, raise our families. Dear God, we hope the thing we do here tonight will be in your midst, and you will bless us, blessed members. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. You will pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Back here. We have two more chairs. Or two. If y'all want to grab these. You sure? Right here, Tom.
Before we get started, Sassy's good to have you back. Good to see you. Yeah. Thank you. And also, I would like to ask for prayers for Bill Martin, our parliamentarian. He's going to take a leave of absence. He's got some medical issues, and he's going to be taking care of those now. And really needs your prayers. And if we could all keep him in our thoughts and prayers going forward. And one more.
There
Yes.
is a family in our community, the Princes. I think he's been in hospice, and just for people to keep him in their prayers. He's a neighbor, and
Okay. So this, which prince is that? Is that Daniel?
Daniel.
Daniel Prince? Okay. We'll do that.
I'm sure they could use all the prayers. We can send them.
Okay,
they
so at this time, what we will do is we'll go forward with the roll call. Who's going to give roll call? Do we have a
Yes,
second?
that's me. I'm filling in for Hilda and
Okay.
Vicky.
Thank you.
Glenn Hunter,
Here?
Rhonda Axel, here. John Bryant,
Yes, ma'am.
Sassy Johnson, here. Sammy King,
Here.
Tommy Matthews,
He's out sick.
Send an email.
Joe Nana, here. Rick Palm,
Here.
Phil Ray,
She's out.
Charlie
Sick.
Thompson,
Here.
Tom Travel,
Here.
Terry Hester, here. Mickey Olson, she's got some Mickey M, vacation. Hilda Gilchrist on vacation. Bill Graham. Anybody I missed?
Okay, did Hilda call in?
Hilda texted me, that's why I'm filling in as secretary for her.
Okay, so we need to approve those that called in that were absent or ill.
Make a motion.
Motion by John,
Second.
second by Charlie. Any discussion on those excused absences? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. We'll move on now to the agenda. Board members, you have a copy of the agenda. It's the pleasure of the board.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Motion by Charlie Thompson. Second. Second by Tom Trammell. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I oppose.
Joan Nano, you oppose? Okay, so the motion passes. We'll move on to the August minutes. Board members have a chance to read through the minutes about August.
I do need to tell you that there is one correction that we need, a correction addition that we need to do to the minutes. And that is that at the end of last board meeting, and under old business, it was brought to the attention of the board that we needed to add another person to the safety deposit box at the bank at TD Bank, because two of the people that are on there are no longer with us. We voted to add Terry Hester. So I will make sure that Hilda gets that correction verbally written, but we need to make sure that, we need to probably bring it to the board to request that that be added.
Okay, I'm not really sure that
We need to probably do a motion to accept that.
Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion that's accepted once that is added.
Okay, we have a motion by Charlie, second by Tom Trammell. Any further discussion on the motion to approve minutes?
There is one more. She didn't type in under the memberships for Columbia County, it's like a back, I think it's a /4 instead of 626.
626.
So it should be there.
Okay, well, we've got a motion second. I guess we could amend the motion, Charlie.
Yes.
I think it's just a typo.
Okay.
I would like to amend it to approve it once both of those corrections have been made.
Okay, Mr. Trammell, you agree with that? Okay, any further discussion on the minutes? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll move forward. We have a secretary's report, Carol?
Actually, she only gave me what we have in the minutes, so she didn't.
So
just
she has-
asked me to fill it, so I have
No updates?
No other report.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the park manager's report. Bill?
Thank you. In my report, I stated that over the last 4 weeks, the attendance in the park has been considerable. Nice weather and weekends, nice weekend.
Can you talk up, Bill? Folks can't hear you.
The attendance in our park has went up considerably over the last 4 weekends, and mostly because of the long Labor Day weekend. And also, many of our access points are underwater. Caution should be used while entering the water due to the submerged rocks, branches, stumps, cypress knees, or anything else. I would suggest people to not dive head first in from any shoreline kayaks or boards. And some of the issues that we're dealing with, which are, some of them you've heard before, it's just like an echo, is first and foremost is gates are continually being left unlocked. I don't understand what the reason is behind that. Hoping the cameras, when they're finally up and running completely, will be able to start getting some of the talking to some of the folks about leaving the gates unlocked.
Sure.
You know, it's our neighborhood and it's our parks, and it only takes a second to keep them safe, keep people from coming in behind you, but you have no clue who it is in your park. So I lock gates all day whenever I'm out. People are bringing trailers down to the Point Park that are attached to their vehicles. I realize that many times it's not crowded in there, but I've been seeing more and more people do the same thing, so they're assuming that they're allowed to do it. But if we get a busy weekend, or if there's no parking available, people start pulling their trailers behind the vehicles and parking them in the parking area.
Now, when you've got gate greeters, are you not having that problem, are you?
No, they take care of it, but it's just I'll go down there and there'll be 1 or 2 trailers, not all the time, but I'm, just like any of the other rules, these are the rules, I don't make them up, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just following what's written outside or whatever is inside, Utility vehicles, I have had a few times where I've had to go down and they were gathering at the ramp, the boat ramp again. I've asked them to leave, and most of the time I get a chance to really have a talk with them, which is wonderful, because then we can come to an understanding of what it is and why I'm asking them to do it. People are still coming to the park, bringing their dogs, and I realize some of them are safe or service animals. I don't have a problem with that, but people are, walking in the dog crap, and they're telling me about it. And everybody, as I tell folks, I've seen a lot of dogs bite children that don't bite, and the board needs to realize that this is a liability, and also the members need to realize that if your dog bites somebody, a small child, especially when they're down at their face level, they'll take off a piece of their chin or their cheek or their shoulder or their neck or whatever. And so all the folks that are all about having dogs going into the parks, they're gonna have to also bring their, if something happens, bring their checkbook. People, Bridge Park, has been broken in, the gate, lock has been broken twice, and it had to have been done with a hammer, or some type of tool like that. So I replaced the lock with a new lock. I don't understand it, why somebody would use a hammer on one of our locks, so. Unless they're not supposed to be in there, what do you think?
Well, that park's gonna have cameras also, so hopefully that can be corrected.
Broken glass is still being found in all the parks, I find it. I had a group or two down at Midpoint, way past midnight. One night, there was about 4 or 5 guys, gate was open, and I have no clue what they were doing down there. They weren't going swimming. And we do have an issue with drugs in this community, and everybody knows that, it's not a secret. So you can make your own, scenario, whatever it is.
Bill, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
When you had someone in the park well after dark, did you take any action on that? Did you call the sheriff's office?
Well, I talked to the people, they followed me right out, went right out.
Is it a group that is continually causing issues?
This was a new group,
Okay.
like, I'd never seen them around. Wayne was with me, he said he was gonna go,
Okay.
he wanted to go for a ride, And,
Well, if you could, I would just ask that we could be consistent with that. If you have that after dark, that we consistently notify them. Now, if they're members, they need to be given warnings.
right. Yeah, they weren't defensive or anything. I walked up to them and advised them that the gates close the gates close at about when it gets dark, And it's for the safety of everybody. Go to the next one. People are still occasionally bringing ATVs into fishing park. I see the tracks. They have made it now where the rock is sitting here, and the gentleman next door has cleared his property, which would be on the left side when you're looking at the park. So they can go down in and come in that way, or if they're about this wide, they can get right through there. And I see the tracks. And then I had somebody had mentioned that they would use the parks if they could, but they won't take their dog down there because of the mud and all the and all the tracks and stuff. Apparently, hasn't been down there in a while, but mud is part of that park, and there are good walkways getting into that park all the way to the river. I think it's a real nice park, except for the fact that people are using the trees for toilets and leaving the toilet paper there around the trees. So some of our fine people on that. We still have people tying up boats to our Trepo property. I've had to call the sheriff twice. And I had a discussion with the sheriff one time concerning a boat. It's kind of hard for me right now because I've been told that it is a medium water line is our property. And that is approximately where our ramp ends. I've had boats way up past that, and I've called the sheriff on it, and the sheriff showed up and said there was nothing he could do. And so I had a discussion with the officer, and he said, well, his lieutenant told him that wherever the water is, if there's water around the boat, they're legal. But it had no mention of the median water line. So we got to get that figured out so we know, I don't look like an ass. I can do that pretty good myself anyway. But everybody's working off the same page.
Bill, there is a group that's working on the boating issue, so, and they have been apprised of that situation, so they will be working to deal with that.
Right. If they come right up, up on the land, and I can have the ability to go in. And most of the times it's just a discussion. with people. But, you know, 98% of the people that live around here are very thankful for us doing the things we're doing. It was brought to our attention that there was a problem with midpoint ramp, so we taped it off. I taped it off with caution tape. Went back down a couple of days later, and somebody had taken all the caution tape down and took it with them. Now, apparently they needed it for something else at home. And then I went down yesterday, stopped by there again in the morning, and the caution tape was all there. Then yesterday afternoon, on my way back, the caution tape was all ripped down. And this time they left it. Apparently they got enough the first time around. So, the issue is, you know, people bring these liability issues up to my attention and your attention, everybody's attention. And then we got folks that are members that think that they own the place, I guess. You know, I get frustrated with it, you know, and I would think members would get frustrated too.
Now, the Midpoint Park right now, is the dock underwater now?
Yeah, it's underwater.
Okay, so there's an issue that you had worked on to try to get fixed. That was something to do with the steps there?
Yeah, we had already tightened everything up on that deck. Yes, there's some boards that are loose. They're not falling off. They're just a little bit loose if you put a lot of weight on. The handrails were all tightened up all the way down.
Right.
There's one step on the step coming out of the water. It's been like that ever since it was built. It ain't a broke-off step. It's a piece of wood that was the wrong size that was put on there. Okay, so it's not a broken step. All the steps are fine, except for one that is not as wide as all 3 or 4 of the others. Yes, it needs to be replaced. There ain't no doubt about it. But now it ain't gonna get done until, we had somebody lined up to do it. We're gonna pay this person. The person had to back out. So, the board chairman and I went down and we pressure washed it. I tightened up the railings and stuff, and it would have made it through the summer fine. It wasn't, I felt it was fine. It was as good a shape as it was. In the future, yes, we need to take a look at it.
Currently, I'm working with Sammy to get the steps rebuilt, so as soon as the
Yeah.
water's down, we'll get some steps in.
Yeah, but nobody can use it now because I've got it taped off. Well, I think I did.
For a little while.
Yeah, for today. And I have a suggestion on that. Would you like me to
Sure.
present it? I suggest that we close that part down, put a different lock on it. If there's, you know, the concerns are so great in the community of a liability problem, and we attempted to fix it so people wouldn't get hurt. There's no problem walking into the river now. With the water up as high as it is, it's a
Right.
nice clean walk right into the river. And they still want to go out on the dock. The dock is a liability. And that, from what I hear, you know, I think,
You just told us it was fine.
Just a second.
Take the dock down.
what?
Take the dock down.
Listen, we're gonna come through the board, okay, Chairman,
Yeah,
all
we
right?
need to talk to him, please.
So anyway, well, let's do this. You determined that there's an issue with the steps. The dock itself is fine, but there's an issue with the steps. Is
I
that
didn't
correct?
find anything that was terrible on the dock itself, the dock
Okay.
itself.
Okay. So right now, it's not really usable because it's underwater. So as soon as the water goes down, the deficiency that you're talking about, being the steps, is already planned to be replaced. So they will actually be replaced with a more efficient step that meets the standard.
Right, okay. Well, that's something that we'll take care of, I guess, in spring or whenever.
Well, just as soon as the water goes down, we can't even begin to predict that.
We can only do what we can do as human beings, and.
I would suggest just to continue to keep putting tape there on the steps. And of course, now with the cameras, we can see who's causing what, because with the cameras coming in, we'll be able to determine who's doing what at that particular part.
Okay, that's great. It'll also possibly help with people showing up there after midnight,
Right.
down at that park.
Well, I want to go back to that because if you've got someone that's in the parks after dark, that's a violation, unless it's a camping park.
I'd like to talk about camping park a little bit.
All right.
Camping park that apparently is open 24/7. I recently learned that from one of our board members. I think that's everybody's talking about liabilities, I think that's a liability. I think the camping park should be closed after if somebody's camping in there, they're camping in a tent. But if they're down there at the water, 7, 8 vehicles, 6, 7, 8, which I find not on a regular basis, after dark sometimes, every now and then I have, somebody didn't know the rule, and I didn't know the rule, to be honest with you, that I was under the assumption all the parks closed after dusk, or, except for maybe boat ramp for people to get.
The only
their boats
reason camping park skirts that rule is because people are camping, so they're there in the park. So
Right.
the only problem that we have is we don't have a certification method to determine who is in the park. We don't have, like we reserve a pavilion,
Right.
we don't have a process established yet that would say that I'm there because I'm supposed to be there. I called and reserved the opportunity or the right to be there. So that's probably something that we need to start looking at.
Well, I think it'll keep
Going
everybody
forward.
safe.
And then the only reason that you would be in that park after dark would be if you are a certified camper or
Right.
qualified camper.
Because, that park's got a history for one thing, everybody knows about that. That's not to say, the others couldn't happen at. But I think that it's great that we have a place for people to go camp, but I would make it, they'll be saying, well, I'm camping in my car, I'm camping in it's gotta be put in stone how people are, if they're absolutely camping, like you said. Right now, we can't do that. But, most of the time, nobody camps there anyways, because and I've talked to people that did camp, because they're fearful for the folks that are down there that
Right.
come in there.
All right?
Okay, and then, issues that were brought to me by Tripo residents. Dogs and the waste that are left behind in the parks. People coming up to them at Hodor Gate, waiting and asking them if they will let them in, which they do get people letting them in. They don't have a key, you don't have a clue if they're even a member. They're making fishing park more accessible for folks that have mobility issues. And I can see that we could possibly do something so at least they could have some kind of a stairway path going down in the future and get down to the water, and maybe even make somewhat of steps going down when the water's down to the shore. Let's see, questions concerning boat ramp and swimming, which we've all talked about, and that was brought to my attention also.
So what is the issue with boat ramp and swimming?
Oh, it's a continuation of issue, people wanting that to be opened back up, because it used to be opened back up. And I understand the liability issues with that. I've seen kids with their legs cut open, by props, by drunk people that don't understand what they're doing on their boat, or even sober people that aren't keeping an eye on their children and otherwise.
Well, Bill, this board did request that not be a swimming park because it began to become a swimming location.
Right.
And there were a lot of children that were going down and people were trying to bring their boats in. If you know, that's very difficult to land a boat there under certain times when the river levels are at certain levels.
Sure.
You really have to be able to navigate upstream to be able to get a boat in. If you've got children swimming around, they're not paying attention. And we had several close calls, so the board did, at one of our meetings some years back, ask to have that absolutely enforced for that reason. And there's plenty of other places to go swim. So folks can go to other locations and swim.
It's also been brought to my attention that that's not a liability for us for people swimming in the water.
It is a liability for us.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
What else?
Okay, boats coming in, this has been a big issue over the weekends, and this is an ongoing thing. And I know there's not a whole lot we can do about it, but unless the Florida game gets involved. There's boats coming up very close to people on canoes and on, not canoes, on rafts and stuff, up on the run,
Right. There is the boating committee that is addressing that issue also with the state.
you know. And then I have last one, boaters bow fishing off the front of a boat. I realize bow fishing is legal in the state of Florida. That's not the, but if you got somebody in a canoe, in a tube right here, and you're bow fishing right next to them, the person bow fishing, that's like, that's like shooting a gun in a room full of people. A bow can kill somebody, an arrow can kill somebody just as easy as a gun. So that's not a battle we can probably win, but I would suggest anybody that bow fishes and likes doing it. I've done it before. I've done it in Kissimmee Lake. It's a wonderful and fun thing to do, but I sure wouldn't do it with children and people floating right by my boat.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right, Bill, thank you for that report. Board members, you have any? Yeah, Tommy?
Mr. Chairman, I'd suggest maybe we consider requiring people who camp in camping park to get reservations through the park manager. Then we know who's there, who the bona fide campers are. So even if it's not a reservation, it'd be a notification. And then we would have documentation as to who's in there and when they're going to be in there and who's going to be in there with them. And I'm not sure if I don't think that's in place at this time. They could do that through the park manager.
I don't know what the rule reads on camping park as it relates to, the rule of camping park as it relates to campers? And
As of
what's
right
it-
now, I don't think there's anything written in the policy and procedures of the.
Okay. So why don't we take a,
I can make a suggestion based on the
Okay,
skill of Swanee.
sure.
When you go and register that you're gonna be in the park, they give you a sign to put on your dashboard, so that way people will know that they are supposed to be in that park and they are allowed to be there. So if they're registering and they have some kind of a sign that's not something that's easily duplicatable from other ways, but if you had something like that, you could actually control a little bit of that. Or at least he would know who was supposed to be there or not, and especially like you said, if he's the one registering them, then he absolutely is gonna know.
Currently, there's no way somebody could actually pull a camper down in there.
Right.
If they did, either that it would get totally tore up by the trees, or it'd get stuck in the mud holes.
Right.
I would suggest that people don't camp down by the pavilion anyway,
They're
because
just covered up.
that takes over the pavilion. If you got 2 or 3 more people camping, they don't have access to the pavilion or the really.
But let me ask you this, through the summer, what was the number of campers that you saw actually camping there
I would say I could count 4
for the entire summer?
for the whole entire summer, and the other ones were just people hanging out after hours and stuff. That's where I had some of my first issues with folks thinking that they could do whatever they want to.
Okay, so that really is something that maybe the Rules Committee could come back and take. I would look at that, the number of trips into that park and maybe come up with some kind of maybe even a more useful purpose for that park. If you're not having that many people utilize it. That park was established back when Mr. Hodar was platting all these properties, and people needed a place to go.
Right.
And that's where they went while they were buying property or starting to build, and they'd pull campers and such.
My uncle owned a piece of property that pie shaped right to the left. And I know about that park, and that's back when I was a kid.
So we'll get through this election, and what we can do then is we can let the rule committees, we can come back to a couple of these and review those at that time and see if we can go forward with that.
I understand I was a little passionate with this, but I tell you what, it's the same stuff every time I come and talk to you or anybody else. It's us against them, and I'm tired of it. following the rules.
Appreciate that. I think just having the eyes on the ground, it seems things are a lot better than they have been, so appreciate that, Bill. Any other board members? And Tommy, thank you for that comment also. Yes, Rick?
Have we ever had a competent assessment done of our obligations under the Americans with Disabilities Act? That might be something you might want to consider.
I think Evelyn did. Didn't Evelyn?
I'd never heard that.
Evelyn had checked into it because we had a question here at Hoder Park, and they said due to the fact that we're private.
Right.
Right. Right,
I mean, we can look into it again, but I do know that she did that after I got on the
Yeah,
board.
I kind of remember that also. We're not required by law, but I think certainly we want to make things as accessible or have some accessibility
I just
for,
want to make sure that we didn't have any exposure to that.
right.
And obviously for the primary reasons for that loss.
Right, sure. Okay. All right, Bill, you have anything else?
I think I've said more than enough.
Okay. Any other board members? All right, we'll move on then. Thank you, Bill, for that report. We'll move on to the treasurer's report. Carol?
Before you, you'll have your treasurer's report, which tells you that the Drummond checking account, we have $35,855.47. We still have $50,022.20 in our savings account. In the membership checking, we have $26,338.31 for a total income of $112,215.98, and that's represented on your books. I do know that at the beginning of this month, we went ahead and transferred over the membership checking into the operating account to help finish out this year. And because we are going to be starting collecting new dues, we want the membership checking account to reflect the new dues that's being collected. Currently, for our monthly expenditures this month was $12,256.47. Our auto drafts, which is your electrical, that automatically got drafted out of our account, was $671. So total expenditures was $12,928.03. Interest on our checking account was 34 cents. We had $3,063.09 in deposits in membership checking, and we had $325 worth of electronic deposits. So our electronic deposits are making a good way for our membership to actually pay their membership dues, and that's working well. On the back side, you'll see our profit and loss for this month, which includes those expenditures, shows you where those expenditures went. It does show us with a negative, but that's because it's the month of August.
Right.
And it's always gonna show a negative once we get past our income on the beginning of the year.
A lot of new members aren't at 100% fees,
Right.
correct?
Right. So our percentages are going down as far as memberships coming in, but like I said, we're fixing to go into our new year. So our membership, well, that will obviously increase tremendously.
Prorated. It's prorated.
Yeah.
Okay, so board members, have any questions on the finance report for August? We have a motion to approve the finance report and expenditures for the month of August.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by John, second by Tom Trammell. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Anything else, Carol?
I need to add one thing real quick, for somebody did ask me
Sure.
about, which, the front end up there, where people are putting up canopies and stuff, and
Yes.
selling their goods, and parking in our areas, that not supposed to be, they're ruining our grass where we have, that was brought to my attention, somebody worked really hard on making that nice, and everything getting destroyed up there. I notice it, I don't know where I stand on the right to even ask anybody anything. That's something that maybe you can.
Yeah, that's something that we probably need to address, because coming right off of the highway is going to be county and state property, DOT, and I know that the county has some easement there with the bike trail, and then you've got Duke Energy has that strip. It's maybe 100 feet, 80, 100 feet. That's their property. They don't want trespassers on their property, but the one thing that's really of concern that we really should be taking a look at, and it's only from a neighborhood standpoint, because we all live in here and our families come in and out of those gates, is that there's been a significant amount of accidents there at the 27 and at Riverside, going into 27. It's got a lot to do with the distraction of the river, the curves and so forth. So if you throw some other extra activity down there, I think that's just a recipe for disaster. Not really sure, maybe Mr. Trammell, you might have an idea of how we might could address that with county and state, but it's not that we want to take away someone's opportunity to sell goods, but that is a location that it could be quite distracting to, and cars are running 65 miles an hour. So when someone's distracted and pulls down, we've had a lot of accidents there.
Mr. Chairman, it may be possible, and I was gonna mention this earlier and forgot about it, but, it may be possible that we could meet with, Duke Energy and the county and possibly get authorization from them extended to us to actually, remove people, from those areas, immediately, surrounding the entrance area to our community. I don't think, as you stated, I don't think they want people parking there. I don't think they want trespassers there. And I think just like with people who enter the river by going over the rail and then taking their boats, and I've seen even trucks parked on the highway out there, parked and then taking their kayaks and canoes into the Stuckney. They wound up with liability as well. And so I think that, maybe there's some things we could do. One, maybe to get the county, if they would, to put up a large chain link fence along that the rail area. But the other thing is maybe they could extend the authority to us to have those people removed. But I think it would need to be in writing, and I guess the board would need to consider if that's something you really want to take on. But it leaves us without, if we don't, it leaves us without a lot of control as to the entrance area, especially as you stated,
Right.
where Duke and the county have right-of-ways and liens, and so it's just it's something that I think the board needs to consider there, because I think it is important.
Well, we should start seeing in 23 a lot of activity on the railroad trestle, because that grant for bringing the bike trail that stops on both sides of 27 and doesn't go by the bridge is going to go across the railroad trestle. And so that's going to free up a lot of the situations of folks trying to get across the bridge, around the bridge that way. So that could make things a little more difficult. Now, I do know that there is going to be, I saw some plans, there's going to be a pretty good structure that would keep you from being able to enter the river there, based on the way that trail is going to be laid out between the two counties. But I don't know how things outside of that. You've got we have a property owner in Three Rivers right there in Arms Way, and the state has their property, and they don't have it very secure, because people are utilizing that. So it's only going to draw actually more traffic. It's going to draw more attention to that particular area. So it's only going to get more populated. It's going to get worse for us. So why don't we do that? We'll contact, we probably should go ahead and bring DOT in on that also, because there's some things associated with that bridge and some setbacks. So why don't we just do that? I think you and I could do that if you'd like to do that. And any other board member that'd be interested in being a part of that, just call us up and we'll be glad
Brought to
to.
my attention that people park their cars there too, and whenever they cut our grass, people that cut our grass, they have to cut around these cars, so you got a nice cut area, and then you got an area that isn't cut.
So what we need to do, I think Tommy hit it on the head, we just need to get that absolutely defined as to who has the authority and what is the expectation of those entities that own that property, as it relates to what can and can't be done. Okay, so where were we?
Back to me.
Back to you, okay, you started that?
They started that.
Okay.
If you look at your budget, the budget committee met and we went over and compared last year to this year and came up with some ideas, some plans and things. It's a little in-depth with the following pages to the top pages, obviously just the summary page. The in-depth things as we went through line item by item, down each one of these categories and said things that we did do last year that we probably don't need to do this year, or some more money we wanted to add to different projects. So as you can see, the main category you need to probably look at will be in each individual county area. And that was, in Columbia, well, the administrative area, we only increased our budget from last year to this year by about, looks like about $1,400. And that was just because we wanted to make, we continue to have the security equipment in that because we anticipate there's gonna be more pieces of equipment that's gonna be bought this coming year. So we went ahead and left that as it was. The only real adjustment, I think, was in our, we went up a little bit on our insurance liabilities and things because we anticipate, as you all know, the economy is making us go into areas of our lives that we don't really like. They're increasing items. We did add extra money in for our internet and our website. And that was because we know, thank you, Charlie, because you've been so diligent about helping and offsetting most of our internet expenses. We wanted to anticipate the increase of internet, especially for the Swanee side when we get into that. But this is to help offset some of those expenses.
It's also the number of
administrative
locations that we're gonna have internet.
This is on the administrative side. When you get into each county, the county, Columbia County, we only anticipated bumping up about $3,000 or $4,000, and that was in some of the areas of, let me quickly, portalets. We know that one of the anticipations is that we have, we have some downtime, we have some portalets, we have some areas that are gonna need an extra portalet because of special events or whatever. Looking at the invoice itself, each portalet is $90 a month. And then you have, if they have to come and service those portalets, it's $60 per portalet. So it adds up if you start looking at it over the course of the whole year. The other increase was in maintenance labor. We know, like we were talking about, if you're gonna be going down and repairing boards, you're gonna be repairing the grills, things like that. We've anticipated that by adding some more money into our maintenance supplies for Columbia County. And going into Swanee County, we know, and we've already talked about it, we actually already have voted. I was at a couple of the meetings when you actually voted to go ahead and repair and upgrade the boat ramp and the other areas you were talking about by adding some handicap facilities and totally upgrading those bathrooms over there. Apparently they need to be upgraded to newer, more modern. So with that in mind, we actually put in an expenditure of $8,000, which we think will offset helping with both of those two major projects. And then, like I said, we anticipate having to do some internet over there. And one thing, and then they're part of the electrics are over there. Then in membership, we went up only to a couple of $1,000, and that's just because the cost of printing of these keys. The keys actually maintain, but we don't know for sure. I mean, how much is copper? How much is that going to cost when we get ready to make the purchase for next year? So we did increase our picnic and fish fry. I know most of y'all have gone to the grocery store, and our food costs have gone up. We looked at the budget from last year, and the same items that they purchased last year were almost double from what they purchased for the past meeting that they had. So we went ahead and kind of looked at the cost of that. In community events, I know that I think everybody seems to be enjoying these community activities. We did up that just a little bit to help offset some of the upcoming ones. And of course, as most of you know, the Estoppel money that's coming in, that's actually being designated off to offset. So the Estoppel income coming in is actually paying for these community events. So it's not coming out of pocket, it's coming out of additional funds that we have coming in. Then this year we decided we were gonna definitely do some, of course, your mail out your newsletters. We're going to continue to do those. And then we are going to be doing additional invoicing and all for our membership. They'll be getting actual postage and paper invoices. So that's an additional, and continue it on. We maintain the capital improvement, which is still, funds that we'd like to do to see this building upgraded, to see some other buildings and some other properties, so we continue to have that. That one really didn't go up as far as what we had budgeted for. We obviously now have Bill on board, so we are now using some of those funds that we had designated for his salary and for his expenses. Park repairs, all those things I think have pretty much stayed the same. So going back to your very front sheet in summary, right now with the $50,000 we have in the bank, with the anticipated income of our membership, if they stay right now where it is the $90,000. The anticipation with the proposed additional income is us getting out there and actually attracting and inviting more members, more people in the community to become members, so that our increase of our income comes to that. So that you see your totals, so the proposed expenses for next year, and that's provided that you have the money to pay for them, is $216,340. Those capital improvements, like I said, include remodeling of the clubhouse, it's paid for your security equipment, the picnic table replacements, that's been on the table. We've actually have already really approved having that done, we just need to, move forward with that. So some of these actually, we're bringing forward things from last year into this year to finish up.
Also, there's one other item I think was left off there, was the launching dock here for Hodar.
I think that's part of your
For
cap,
kids.
that's
Was
for
it-
your
was that-
capital,
okay.
that's in your capital.
Okay. And we've got, I think we have.
I didn't write it down, but yes, that was.
And that's out for bid
included.
now.
Pardon?
That's out for bid.
yes. That would actually come out of your, probably since it's over here in Columbia, I think that's part of your, if you look at your line item, remodeling renovation is item number 14 under Columbia County, the 414 was $5,000. So it's gonna be enough for that, no, but it can, the additional
We'll
can
have
come out of
to-
your capital.
Right.
If you
Board
build,
members?
if you build it, I will find a place to.
Board members, do you have any questions on the proposed budget for next year? Okay, do we Carol, would a motion be in order to approve the proposed budget? So, call for a-
So it
give a
has to
motion.
be presented.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Motion by Charlie Thompson, second by Mr. Trammell. Any discussion on the budget, proposed budget? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed?
Yep.
Motion passes. All right, we'll move on then. Anything else, Carol?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll.
We will move on to President's report. Terry?
Okay, learning too much to talk about. We got the second pavilion at Joint Park. I'm looking at picnic tables right now to find out what's the best design to go with it, what plans for wear and tear down there. And also our barbecue will be October the 8th. We're gonna start serving at 11:30 this year.
You are.
It's gonna be 8.
You are. Who's gonna provide it?
You are.
Not at 11:30.
Get up a little earlier, the
I
office.
don't know.
We're gonna run out of
Well,
time.
We'll
Friday.
work that out.
Yeah, I know,
Anyway,
I gotta
8
work, I
o'clock,
gotta
and
work.
$8 for adults and $4.
You can feed them hot dogs till the barbecue gets ready.
So you have everything worked out?
Bunch of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Barbecues,
You can't do it to be fresh.
Well, we just think about everything going on. And then we need to go
Bring
into
the
the
meeting
camera.
first.
I'll get with you, gentlemen, on that. So what else, Terry? No other report? Okay, we'll move on to Maintenance Committee. You have something else before we move on then?
We got, emails from the, I just got this. They want to do Manatee Cycles Network on the Itchituttony, and they're asking for people that, live on the Itchituttony, that they will get involved in helping cite these manatees. So if anybody wants to do that, they give me a call, and I'll give them the contact information to be able to do that.
What's that again, Terry?
Yeah, manatee site. If anybody wants to look at it, they can. It's the Latham County Environmental Protection Department. They're partnered with Kentucky Springs State Park along with various other organizations and parks to gather data on the manatee population using the Kentucky River. They want people that live on the river to get involved with local projects.
And they were wondering if they could put a table out with their information on the day of our members'
I
meeting.
think that'd be a great idea, sure. I was just curious how the process was gonna get started, so, that's how they're gonna do it? okay. All right.
Anybody wants to do that, give me a call.
Any board member have any problem with that? Okay, I think that's a good go. What else?
They have to wrestle on manatees.
We don't wrestle. I have
Okay, so
wrestled.
we'll move on then to maintenance report. John, you have anything to report?
Yes, sir, I do, thank you. I've been looking at some lime rock and, I've got a hold of 2 or 3 guys, and the only one I got that would deliver it to me is Hart Trucking, is $4.25 for a 20-ton load. Yeah, 20 ton, that's 40,000 pounds, so pretty good sized load, $4.25. Need at least 2 loads at, on the Swanee side, and we're gonna try to put 2 loads down at Campton Park. What's it look like down at Midpoint? I haven't moved down there and looked at the
Midpoint has got some,
holes in it again.
not terrible, probably one load would clean it up.
All right,
Yeah.
that's a total of 5 loads, that'd be, what, 21, 25? So it's up to you, unless you get your guy to,
Well, I know you've got some issues, but we also need to have somebody compact that.
yeah, I know it,
So
that's the only thing about with this guy, I don't know. I'll try to find out if he can do it. If he can't, we're gonna have to go back to Mike.
That's right. Did you reach out to them?
I haven't heard from him lately, he had that
Okay.
big job going on.
Okay,
Also, Miss Hilda had looked at some grills, and she gave me a picture of a grill. Good looking, well, I know she gave me the picture of it, it was a good looking grill, but it was 400 and, I think it was like $469 or $479, and $127 freight to get it. Well, I went on to Great American Property Management Products, got to talking to the lady that they start out, the one we're looking at is called a budget-friendly surface mount barbecue grill. It's $419. We buy 10 of them, we can get them for $188 a piece.
So,
Total.
so you and I
And we've
talked,
already got some of them. I got 2 over on the Swanee side, there's a couple around out here at some of these parks.
so we talked about that, John, too. I think you were talking about putting a plate in the bottom.
Yeah, we're talking
Quarter-
about maybe
quarter-inch
putting a
plate.
plate to to
Reinforced.
shore up a little bit, reinforce them, because that, people don't realize, but charcoal or wood gets very hot, and it's got, charcoal's got a lot of potash in it, it eats the bottoms of them out, so.
Do we have another welder besides,
Do we make a
Bill?
motion?
Well, we can get one, so, I'll get one.
Because Bill's
Uh,
Yeah,
Kinda out of
I
pocket.
didn't know that. But,
Let me, I'll get with you tomorrow on the lime
okay,
rock.
all right, good deal, I'm gonna go ahead and order this grill in a couple of days.
Well, we already approved those two.
Yeah, we already approved it, I didn't approve that many, but,
Okay, good.
Okay.
It's kinda hard to turn it down for that kind of money.
Anyone else have any questions of John? John, you got anything else?
Not right now, I thank Bill for what he's doing out there, working on things.
Okay, all right, we'll move
Putting
on.
up with all the BS he puts up with, number one.
It's all right. So anyway, what we'll do is move on then to communications report.
All right, so we'll start with membership. So on the Columbia County side, we are up to 640 people, members. On the Swanee side, we are at 215 members.
Picked up 7, didn't he?
So it's a total of 855 members is where we're at right now.
Very good.
The only thing really on communication, I just kind of want to hit our social media, I guess, social media aspect.
Okay.
Sorry, we can't hear that. It's real hard with this AC.
You can turn it on.
Yeah, turn it off, that'll be fine.
with Facebook. There's also, in the discussion, does it go private, does it stay public? The communications committee, it needs to stay public for the fact that if your dog goes missing, you've got a much bigger base to find your dog, find your tractor, anything that's lost like that, you've got it bigger. But we also have more people that are weighing in on situations, and they're not members of TREPO. So they can go on there and make comments, but it's kind of like fueling the fire. I think we need to kind of take it in a different direction. It's kind of gotten out of hand, and I don't want it turning into the other one that's out there. I didn't call the name of it. But we need to keep it more informational. Not so much, we don't need inspirational quotes. We don't need things that maybe you should put on your personal page. We don't need recipes. We don't need things that are kind of clogging it up. And in the past, it hasn't been a problem, but now that we've got 10 people running for the board, it's kind of burying things. And I tried, Linda Dicker brought up the solution of pinning them to the top, so they're all pinned to the top. But there's still, then they go on and ask questions, and one will rise up, they'll have conversation, and it goes down, and it's like up and down like a slide. But on top of that, you've got things, people are like, well, mine didn't get approved. Well, one of them, I didn't approve it because it says information not available. But so that person could see that, we released it. It's still just taking up space. So it's not really doing anything. When you go and share another person's bio, the bio's already on there, so I don't see where sharing that same bio again does any good. It's just one more post. So we also, perfect example, I know anyone that's been on social media saw the thing at the boat ramp, that whole issue, and it got out of hand. It really did. It took a lot of people to a place they probably shouldn't have gone. I understand people want to be funny, but when you start calling people Karens, calling people names, I mean, we've got to think, I mean, we're a community of neighbors. You may not like what someone's got to say, but if you want your freedom of speech to be able to say what you want to say, you've also got to kind of suck it up and listen to other people too. You may not agree with what they've got to say, but you don't have to kind of degrade them in the process because that's what they said. So this is where we've all got to kind of, because all that participate, just kind of think before you post something. You know, is this something that's going to be for the good of the community versus just kind of poke the pig or, you know, throw some gas on to let's see how big it can get. So I just think we all need to be kind of more thoughtful of what we're putting on there to not clog it up, but still make it informative. I mean, you know, if someone's lost their keys, someone stole their kayak. Fortunately, a lot of these things we're finding because we all pulled together. You know, we find a paddleboard in the middle of the road, and we find it. I mean, I feel bad when these people lose their keys and we can't find these keys. You know, or the dog goes missing or someone's cat. But we just need to be more conscientious of what we're saying on there and what we're putting on there because we're all neighbors. We're all neighbors, and we have to keep remembering that. You know, what would you say to your children if they get on a little spat like that? It's just not, it's not pretty, it's not accomplishing anything. So we're going to try to let it go like it is, and if not, we are going to have to put down some hard rules of what can and can't go on there. But I think we can self-police it ourselves without having to go into that. So,
Okay. Anything else, Mark?
anything from you?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So that's it. I just think we just need to be more cautious of what we're putting on there. You know,
Okay.
is it helping or hurting the community?
I can't follow that anyway.
When they join are they just for, is that just for the members to join that?
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
Or do you have,
I
do
have
you
questions, and I have started, I don't care if it's Terry, say she's not in there yet and she puts this on there. There's 3 questions asked. Are you a TREPO member? What is your TREPO member number? And do you agree to the rules? Everybody's bypassing it off. So they bypass it, decline, 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 decline. If you can't take the time to answer our questions, and I would rather someone say, you know, I'm not a member, my mother is, I'm her caregiver, this is her number. At least we know they kind of belong here in the community. It's not someone that lives in Gainesville that we go online and they don't have any property in their name within the Three Rivers. And you can't do that. I mean, it has gotten so big, you can't do everything at this
That's
point.
what I was wondering, if it was a.
But from
like
now
Other
on-
groups you have to.
Right, right. And I feel like anything, as far as anything with candidates, I don't think it's fair for people to weigh in if they're not a voting member of TRECO. If you're a voting member, then you ask those questions, you weigh in, you do whatever you need to do to get to the bottom of your candidates and what you want to find out from them. But I just don't see where people that are our neighbors, that do live in the community, but they're not property owners and members of TRECO, where they have really a right to weigh in on our information here.
Can you just decline it, or can you just remove them out of the group?
I've been deleting a lot of them. Any that I can't find because I'll even go on there and try to see if they're members of anybody, if they're mutual friends of somebody, just something. But there's a lot that are not. They don't even live here. They live elsewhere. So if I can't find a picture of them in something to tie them to our community, I have been deleting a lot.
Okay,
So-
Rhonda, do you have anything else?
That's it. That's a full-time
Okay.
job.
All right, we'll move on to new business. Do we have any new business, board members? Do we have any old business other than we've got the picnic and the election coming up in October?
Give you a
It's gonna be
camera
busy.
report, that's about it.
Pardon?
Give you a camera report.
Would you like to give us a camera report?
Sure.
Okay.
Cameras are live at Midpoint Park now. The NVR that's recording is not inside the park, so if somebody does go down there and vandalize something, well, they're not going to be able to get to the recording device anyway, so we're going to know who they are. And my team was down there today finishing that up and getting measurements for all the conduit and stuff. We're going to need a point park, so we'll be moving to that here real soon.
Very good. Very good, Charlie. Thank you. Okay, anyone else, old business? All right, so we'll open it up to property owners for comments to the board. Do we have any property owners that would like to speak to the board? Yes, sir.
I just need to know a couple things, or I'll
Sure.
break the rules around here, but, the first one though is, we closed down Midpoint, but he just tightened up the whole dock.
Yeah, there's a purpose for that was because there's some faulty stairs coming up.
He said it's perfect. He
No.
just said it's the same as it's always been, he tightened it all
He made a
up.
mistake. It's not the same as it's always been. The staircase is messed up.
So we can't get out there?
Not
'Cause
not
when
on the
water's high,
staircase.
I don't like going all the way to the point. I
Yeah,
like
It's,
getting
it's
out
all
there
that we
very-
can say right now till the water goes down and we can replace it. We've already, made plans to replace the stairs as soon as the water goes down.
And then, for being dark in the parks?
Yes,
For like night kayaking, you can't do that anymore?
I'm not sure, that is isn't that a rule that we discussed that they could call
Yes.
that in?
Yeah, if you're going as a group and you're going straight to the river, you're
Well,
not.
like me and my wife go in
Yes.
and we put in,
Yes,
we go down.
it's just no loitering in the park after dark.
All my cars will be there in the park.
That's
So,
fine.
but he said we ain't allowed in the park. after
Well,
dark.
yeah,
So,
right, you're, because like going and
And that
hanging
was my
out.
next question, like a boat ramp, if I put in my boat to go catfishing that night, is that an issue?
That's not hanging out in the park though, that's putting in your boat and you're leaving the park. You're no longer there, you're out on your boat, so you're cool.
The rules in place to stop the loitering and partying and the drugs and alcohol in the parks at
It's
night.
not to keep you out.
So the point might be, and it may be that we need to go to the process of people, if I'm gonna go, call it in, and we know who you are, and if there's someone there, we have a record of it, we know who they are, for that purpose only, but it's not to party and gather and stay.
Yeah,
You know, that way-
We have been discussing that, and that has been.
I don't ever stay in the park, or I, side of Point Park, I walk.
Yes,
around
ma'am.
quite a bit.
My question was about camping park. He mentioned that he had only seen about 4 people the whole year.
That's what he said, yes.
Right, but he also mentioned that there's no way you can get a camper down there because of
Yes.
the trees and the roads. And so perhaps it would get used more
Let's take camping.
if the roads were maintained and the park was in a better condition. I know that I myself, when I was looking at property in this community, I was going to stay at that park as a guest of one of our members.
Right.
So that I could meet with a realtor, look at different properties in the neighborhood, and I was unable to stay at that park because of the condition of it. but I know it
In here
takes
it
a while.
says primitive camping is what it says.
Okay.
But even still, primitive, getting your car down there and putting a tent anywhere is near impossible.
You didn't know that meant carrying a spear and having to run a mile or two, right?
I don't know, it's just, there's nowhere you can put a tent down there, really,
We'll
because
take a
of
look
the
at that.
mud
That's
holes
what he's working on right now, is to
Okay.
get some
The lines.
solid
whatever.
surface down there.
Cool.
And I guess we need to look at the trees. Is, when you say the trees are an issue, is it because
They're
of the?
low and in the
Okay,
driveway.
okay, but if the limbs
Trim
were,
back and,
okay, John, that's something that we can take care of. Okay, yes, Charlie.
Glenn, I was just thinking about, the people that are night kayaking and stuff. While they can do that just fine, we could put that on the website as an optional thing, just in case. I mean, if it's a man and his wife, they're down there on the tubes or whatever at night, whatever they're doing, it'd be kind of nice to know that they came home, you know?
That's what I was thinking, was a safety.
If they
I don't
didn't make it
disagree.
back to their families, we could always go and say, well, they were on the river. That
yeah,
I don't wanna take it out.
That might be
All right.
something that goes into personal responsibility.
right.
I said optional. I said optional.
Optional, yeah.
You know, I'm waiting for my wife to ask me to go, so I can't wait. So we need to get that cleared up.
Yeah.
So that's probably not a bad idea. We will need to come up with a process though, because I don't want to overload you folks with,
Well, he's already
Yes, ma'am.
added on.
you have?
Well, while we were talking, I went ahead and added the 2 pavilions to the website for Point Park, and I added camping park reservations to the website while we were all sitting here talking anyway. But now I was just thinking, I personally wouldn't register to go float down the river, but if somebody wanted to, just as a buddy system thing, maybe we should put the option out there for them.
But if you're just coming in, you're taking off, I mean, you're heading to
You're not
go,
hanging out in the park.
right?
Why don't we just get that clarified under rules and then, because we know
I think-
that would be certainly,
That's what I
Yeah,
think.
wait a minute.
I think you need clarified.
Mr. Troutman.
Mr. Chairman, I think, one of the things that, and this may be what he's doing, but I'm not sure. So I just wanted to make it clear that I think that what we probably should do is to go into camping park and construct designated camping places, put numbers on them, just like you do in other parks. And then they can call in the reservation to the park manager. That can be documented. We're going to be utilizing parking space 1, 2, or 3, whatever it happens to be.
That's a good idea.
That would be nice.
And then let's fix the place so they can go in there and use it, but then you wouldn't have to have, in fact, you could prohibit any camping near the pavilion. You could set those aside from that. And I think that, and I think we ought to fix it up.
Is there-
So people can use it and,
Well, is there anybody in the room here that has camped there or does camp?
Well, I camp all the time. I was really wanting to camp there when I camped. I was
Well, you're
disappointed.
about to break my heart.
I know, I was brokenhearted.
You could've bought- you
I
could've
stayed in
taken it in
Larry's,
our yard.
in Larry's yard
Yeah,
instead.
okay.
I wouldn't want,
That's
I wouldn't
why I
want to
say
take anything away from it, but if it's not feasible to camp there, just the camping
Yeah.
and turn it into a day park. I mean,
Right.
if it's really not feasible for RVs, I mean, I haven't even been there
Let
myself.
us go explore that and take
But
another
if it's
look at it. Yeah,
primitive
Charlie.
camping only,
No, it's
and it's wet and it's
Well, it's not
low
wet.
and not accommodating, then I
Only
hate to
thing-
take it away, but if it's just easier to keep it camping there, then just do that.
We'll take a look at it. and
Because
assess
I
that.
thought about that too. I said, why don't you build a, even concrete pad or whatever, or lime rock pad? The issue is, that's the first place it floods.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd wash out pretty quick.
That's the first place it floods. We're gonna put all that money in there.
Yeah, that's why they call it primitive camping.
Correct.
You're right.
So, that's why I was gonna say, we're just, throwing money into.
But why don't we just assess that as a board then?
Primitive camping.
Yes, sir.
So, that park though is pretty good catfishing at night at that park.
I wouldn't
And I
tell
like to sit
everybody.
there and drink some beer.
Well, it used to be until you gave away the secret.
Can we just say that
And the 4th of July, that's like the best fireworks spot because the community across the bridge, they do awesome fireworks for their community. And so I love sitting there too at night.
Well, what you need to
I'll
do
bring
is,
a little pop-up tent.
yeah, that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna just.
I'm gonna say, I'll walk there, I'm
A
gonna
little flag on top and you're right.
That'll do it. Okay, so we'll get back, yes, ma'am. Sure.
That address somewhat, and it's kind of changing the subject. Kind of approach the elephant in the room. I'm a new homeowner here, since the first of the year, and I've observed all the bicycles and everything as far as recording of homeowners. I have not posted anything, I'm just observing, and I was up here tonight. I feel that as a board, you don't, that we should not just assume that people are wrong. And how about, just one solution, I don't know why it's not done. Why don't we, maybe let the residents, not on everything obviously, the board has to do a lot of it. Why don't we let the residents vote on any issues that affect them? That might, help people come together a little better, and, maybe send a survey out even to, that, when it affects everyone.
So I hear what you're saying, and that's what the annual members meeting is about. So on that Saturday, when the elections are held, that's the annual members meeting, and that's when the members can come together and vote and make their wishes known.
Yeah, I realize they're voting for members, issues need to be addressed during the year.
Yeah, and I'm not going to ask you this question. You're a new person in the community, and you're outside of so you're outside of all factions. You're just new. Well, you're not familiar with this side or that side. You've been sitting back and observing.
Well, I'm getting familiar real quick.
No, well, that's why I'm asking you this question. So,
I'm on the Swanee side.
okay, and so I would ask you this question. You say that that there's been some what is it, disruption between the board and the members and whatever. But from what you've been observing, but I would ask you this question: have you seen the board strike out against members?
Absolutely.
You've seen the board members. Have you seen me do so?
I've seen implications or
Right.
what do you say? I'm looking for the word. I can't say well, yeah. Innuendos.
Okay.
Might be a good word. I have seen it, absolutely.
Have you seen me do any of that?
I don't know who everybody is.
Okay.
I've even thought
What
about,
if you-
are you serious?
yeah.
I've even thought about emailing you directly.
And that's exactly how it goes, is the members come to Terry. Terry's their advocate to come to the board.
But I don't think a lot of people are going to come, guys. I mean, just my opinion, like I said, I'm just conservative. I think y'all might need to stop making up rules and really talk to people about what they desire, because all it's going to do is get more divisive.
Well, we have a board meeting every month, and I hope you'll come back.
I certainly.
And you can come and you can, if you've got some things that you would like to address to the board that you'd like to see done in the community, or you'd like to see us take an active role in, if you think you can help be a peacemaker, because I have never struck out in Facebook or any. Oh, I know, but that's what. But we have folks out here right now that attack this board constantly through all these other social medias, and they do it with lies, misinformation, and it's a constant thing. And at the end of the day, it's not worth even addressing, because no point in inflaming that kind of crap. And that's pretty much what it is. Now, I understand you coming in from the outside, but put yourself in our shoes. We have a lot to do, and we could get a lot more done if we didn't have folks constantly creating hatred and telling lies about board members. Well, I saw this board member do that. You saw who do? Oh, well, somebody told me that, and I put it on Facebook, and then the board has to deal with that, and it kind of gets old after a while. Now, I have never done that, and you'll never see that, and I've had to sit here and take all the crap, and you know what? It's fine. I don't mind doing that, because I believe in the neighborhood. At the end of the day, our job is to stand up here in a leadership role, hold things together, and try to go forward, while all this other stuff is out here on these social media sites, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible what these people put out here. And I think by and large, I'll be honest with you, I think by and large, the general membership sees that. They recognize who these people are. They recognize what their real intentions are at the end of the day. And I don't think there's every person on this board puts 110% in what they're doing. They don't get paid for this. There's no glory in doing this. There's nothing but being shot down every day because somebody else wants to shoot somebody down so they can pick themselves up. And we see it over and over and over. And it's nice to meet you. And so I just want you to know that. But at the end of the day, and if there's things we can address, certainly we will. But I don't think this board's turning a blind eye to it. We spend so much time dealing with the other stuff.
Our own time.
We spend so much time dealing with the other stuff, we can hardly get to the work.
Well, that's why I'm suggesting maybe a survey or something to see where everybody stands, maybe a suggestion.
Actually, people can come to this meeting. They literally can come to this meeting, or they can trip the website and ask questions.
Well, I don't normally say
Okay.
anything, but I
Okay. Well, thank you for coming. I'm going to move on to Charlie.
Real quick, ma'am, if you look at, I used to sit on the fence, everybody will tell you that, I've said things, I've responded to things, I quit doing it, I sat on the fence. Our problem is if you look who posts things, you'll notice the same thing
well,
over and over and over.
yes, but I've even seen, and this is kind of just an observation, I've seen the board compliment some of their members, and I have actually met those people and see a different side. So I'm not sure if some people are showing a different side to y'all than the members are seeing, I'm not sure. It's, I mean, I personally have seen, I've talked to other people.
Yeah, like I said, I try not to judge people.
Yeah. Oh, me
I mean,
too.
I can read
Honestly.
people pretty well. I went to school for that in the military and everything. I can tell different things. I mean, looking at, talking and everything. And I'm telling you, it's the same people over and over, making the same comments. And it's because they want it the way they want it. They don't like this board and other people the way they do it. There's things this board does sometimes, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're doing a damn good job.
Well,
With the
no, I
funds they
agree.
have
I agree.
and what they do.
Yeah,
They work hard at it.
let me-
Nobody gets
She didn't
paid.
say anything about it.
I'm going to move on to we've got some more folks. Yes,
She
sir.
didn't say the board wasn't
Subject
doing a good
membership
job.
and
She
all
said
that.
that the neighborhood should vote on something. Didn't say. She did not say the board was doing a bad job.
Yeah, yes, I
Nobody
know.
did.
I don't know.
No, that's-
I know
It's
she
filled with
did.
a lot of new people, whether
You
you guys
didn't
see
say
it or
that,
not.
and you
We're in
didn't-
the voice.
Can we go around and say our names, so at least you kind of face with a name?
Okay, we're going to run around the room since you're new. I'm Glenn Hunter, Chairman.
You'll be members.
Yeah,
Jenny Brantley, Tony Sykes,
Brantley.
Brantley.
Where'd you move here from?
Jacksonville, but we've been coming here for 40, 50, almost 50 years. Yeah, I know there's a lot of other.
You're that old?
You don't look it.
I'm Cherokee Indian from this state. How you guys doing? I'm an Indian native, Floridian from Jake Warrior. Nice to meet y'all. Yeah, new to the neighborhood. And we're 2 years now Facebook, but I still see all of it, and it's pretty sad. The beauty of this neighborhood does not envelop everyone as much as it does, I guess, all of us, because we're all here and very passionate about it. I definitely have seen firsthand when someone says, "Oh my gosh, do you see that?" And I'm like, "Oh God, on Facebook, how could that be?" That's why I gave it up a couple of years ago. I don't want anything to do with it. But I do have a question, because being a member, and Bill, we've gotten to know each other, and you come around on a regular and see us. Once you check us and you see that we're not breaking all the rules, when do you stop checking us? When do you realize that we're good people and that we're not the bad guy in this situation? Does that happen?
I don't consider it checking people.
Oh, yeah.
I generally walk all the parks, just walk around it.
Yeah,
Mainly I'm looking for glass and stuff on the ground.
right.
And
We're not
or-
those people. So
And
when
or
do you learn that?
somebody, and or
That's not very
somebody
nice
using
either.
glass.
It's not.
And I'm not checking any particular people out. There are some people that are really keeping an eye on me when I say what there's no doubt, and they have also written
Okay,
hate things. and
let's
they've
let's
said
move
they-
on. We're going around the room right now, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
So my question can't be answered.
No, I thought he.
Got shut down and he started to finish the board, but she suggested just have a survey. But
That's the procedure.
Well, I'm just asking you, are you seeing it come from the board is what I asked you. I'm certainly gonna defend the board because the board works very hard, yes.
Got very mad at her.
You're right. Yes, sir. What is your name?
You're, Alexander
Just
Vega,
excuse
I'm
me.
not running for the board.
Behind you there.
I'm her worst half.
So
Tell me to keep quiet.
you're Mr. Brantley?
I'm Jerry Brantley.
Okay,
We
Jerry.
live on the Swanee side.
Okay.
When we first moved in here, we felt a little bit neglected. I'm glad we're neglected. I'm sorry. I like the Swanee side. I really do. We don't have problems on there, like Columbia side. Sorry, it's different. But we only have a couple of parks to worry about. We don't have all the people coming in and out of those parks like you guys do. So there's a major difference. Don't forget Brennan Park, please, Lord. Let's take care of Brennan Park.
It's coming.
That's my passion.
In the meantime, communications. The beginning of the website, or the Facebook page, says that you have to be a person, a legitimate person. There is a person posted on the official website that is not an official person. They're not real. And I'm not gonna quote their name, but I'm sure you know who they are.
I wrote it, I'll think of you.
It would be,
Don't say their name, it's Tom Tutter.
Yeah.
I asked Wanda about it. The rules for the Facebook says you need to have a Facebook in your name. Tom Tutter's not a name of a person, of a member that lives in Three Rivers. I checked the GIS map on both Swanee and Columbia. It doesn't exist, yet because he defends the board, he's allowed to speak. So that's what everyone sees is, well, that is in agreement with what the board wants, because the only people that speak on Facebook is either Wanda or Tom Tucker. No other board member speaks on there, except for Bill Grimm, and he goes after us sometimes. And then will delete the messages.
And your name?
And I'm Alexander Vega, and I'm running for the board.
Okay.
And I'm censored. I can't post on Facebook unless I message Vicky, Charlie, or Wanda to approve any post. So how can I be a candidate running, but I can't even speak? Now, you're gonna say that you delete my posts, or you don't put my posts because they're inspirational, or I'm sharing Ruben's post, but yet, when Charlie posts a philosopher or Socrates thing, that was approved.
No, we're letting
When-
everything.
and
go.
that it's
I'm
not
not gonna interrupt, I'm sorry.
when Kathy shared Charlie's post, it was approved, and I have screenshots, and I
It's
can show
gone.
it.
It's
Yeah,
gone.
it's
Just like
gone
when I
now.
started, we had this discussion, and when I started deleting
And I still
stuff,
can't post.
it's gone.
But can everybody check your Facebook right now and see if you can post immediately without approval? Because a lot of you could. I can't. And if I comment, I'm censored to one comment per 5 minutes.
I don't think that's
That's,
excessive.
do you need a screenshot?
I'm not asking for anything.
I'm not
This is-
just asking, because I'm
We're-
asking the questions now, I just
we
want to
have-
respond.
Okay, we're gonna calm it down just a little bit and just keep it calm. Just say what you're gonna
Well,
say.
he's finished, I'll
'Cause-
speak.
Yeah, because what we're trying to do is go around the room and introduce everybody to Jenny.
Yeah.
So, and,
One, based off what she's saying
okay.
is that there's obviously a device and we can't speak, and then when we do speak, we're censored because it's not agreeing with what the image you're trying to project. And I think that's what it is. And a lot, and
We can just
I'm
go
not
back
saying
and
I'm part of
fix
any
it.
group, but I'm saying a lot of people do feel that frustration,
uh,
that their voices are not being heard. And even right now, you said that we can bring these up to the meetings, but at the end of the meeting, the decision has already been made. You've already decided.
so
on
what do you
everything
want the
that-
decision to be? You're asking for the board to change what they're doing?
I'm not asking you to change anything, I'm saying maybe
Okay.
take a little things into consideration. And
Okay.
I've asked in several meetings before, I've asked her maybe that she should have a members meeting, that was a solution. Or things that were brought up to the agenda, people can you actually see what people want, what rules you want. You say you can't swim at the boat ramp, but can you swim at the boat ramp on Swanee side? And can you swim at Beachutucky? You say no because it's a liability, but nobody knows what the liability is. What difference is there swimming at Beachutucky from swimming on the
Release
boat ramp?
everything. 'Cause we're about
You don't own the
tense.
river.
At the boat ramp, the issue at the boat ramp is we had children almost run over by boats.
And how about
So
the Swan side?
specifically, no, let me make it clear to you. And we had the complaints there, we saw the complaints, we went and observed it. When we saw that, the board said, we're not gonna deal with this anymore. This is a dangerous boat ramp for people to try to launch or bring a boat in because of the current in that boat ramp. Well, when you've got children playing there and you've got a lot of children, you've got a lot of boats, it was getting out of hand. So the board made a rule and said, we're not gonna do this. It's too dangerous. And we had children almost get hurt at that particular landing. That was a decision we made. We can bring it back up for another vote and the board can vote on that, but I don't think it's gonna change anything because we've determined that it's a dangerous situation.
But there's
So-
no difference in the Swan side. They have pavilions and picnic tables on the picnic table.
Yeah.
Brother Chairman,
Yes, sir. Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
sir,
Go
sir,
ahead.
you've been to the Swanee side. Now tell me what you saw down on the river.
People swimming on the river.
What did you see down on the river?
Nothing.
You didn't. You didn't see it sectioned off for the kids?
Why are you so
So
angry?
then why can't you section
Why
off
are
the
you so
pieces on this
mad?
side?
There's no need to be mad, just.
No, no, I'm not. It's the only boat ramp.
Yeah.
It's the only place we got.
A lot of neighbors.
They can swim except over here.
I think,
We have
posting
no
them later on
problem.
Facebook,
No one
and you're
has
saying
a
that
problem.
the
It's
board,
fancy.
I know Vicky is not a board member, she's an officer, but she posted a picture and basically shamed them for swimming there.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back around the room and
Gonna do
finish up
that for you.
with the introductions. And then you make your point, we'll give you a minute or two, and we'll make the point, so,
My name is Ruben, I'm also running for board,
okay?
and I just want to touch up on the topic that you brought up regarding being censored. I'm curious as to how many people really have to submit their post for approval, and how many
Can we
don't.
answer it?
The answer
I
to,
also have to submit my post for approval, and you and I had a conversation, Glenn, regarding my bio, and it took a while for that to get posted,
he's done, I'll answer.
so,
It took mine 4 days.
yeah.
I waited too, I checked in, I knew that there was a lot going on, I waited.
Well, I was
I didn't have a
given,
problem
I
with
was
that.
given the reason for why it wouldn't be, I was told it was not going to be approved. And I was given a reason as to why it wouldn't be approved.
I'm about to, but I'm waiting for you to
And
finish.
then, after talking with Vaughn and everyone, we decided, okay, that was never approved, so that didn't apply, and then it turned into something else. So I'm just curious.
And it
are
was
they-
approved?
Yes, the bio was finally approved.
Okay.
So to answer your question, all posts must be approved. It's not just you, it's not just me, it's all posts are set up for approval.
Okay.
Doesn't matter who you are unless you're an administrator, obviously. But other than administrators, all posts are set up for approval.
Since when?
It has been.
Um,
Because I have a screenshot from another member that does not.
I don't remember what date that was turned on, and it doesn't tell you.
Okay,
But
let me let Skip speak. Go ahead, Skip.
Can I go back and address something that Alex brought up about the boat ramp? I think there should be a conversation of how can we accomplish what needs to be done at the boat ramp. There is room on that end of the boat ramp.
Yep.
Maybe we need to go and look at cleaning up and maybe marking up a swimming area, just like you said they've done over on the Swanee side. That's constructive. The constructive needs to be, how do we solve the problem? Not to point the fingers at who's causing the problem, or there is a problem. There is a way to solve that problem. We own a lot of property at that boat ramp. A lot of it is absolutely worthless. It's not usable.
Right.
Okay, that's why it was designated that way. Some of the property that was designated is now being given to the Alachua County Conservation Society for a huge tax write-off.
Right.
It was not usable. But I think there's a way to solve that problem, and the recommendation would be from the members to ask the board to consider it. The board can do it themselves, or can appoint a committee, can ask some members, along with board members, to come together and solve the problem, rather than just the constant bitching about the problems.
Yes.
And that's the real problem, because we don't want to solve problems, we just want to bitch about them. And we want to throw things out that are, we're worse than the federal election. Okay? Think about it. Yeah, oh, well, he did such and such. Well, things are put on Facebook with absolutely no possible background to back them up. We've all got to stop that. You can't make the accusations, because then the people who are being accused, the board, immediately become defensive.
Or the members.
And the people that are making the accusation, they're defensive because the board didn't do anything and the board got offensive about it. So all of us need to tamp it down and come up with solutions. This is a suggestion that I would make. The person who posted the picture, when I read it, the person was posting, hey, somebody just drove out and didn't lock the gate. Members, we need to lock the gate. Did they go too far with the picture? Yeah, probably. But instead of jumping on that person, why didn't we go for the positive part that the person was trying to say? We need to be more responsible for locking gates.
And that wasn't fine if she would just close the gate. But to post a person swimming with their dog, that's not the intent of, oh, let's lock the gate. That's to shame this person for not following the rules.
No, that's also to say that the rules weren't being followed.
Yes, go ahead
So
and
the
finish,
issue
Rick.
should be,
I'm gonna let
not
Ruben-
that she pointed it out, would the board consider changing the rules so that somebody could swim there? I mean, there's a way to come about it that we're missing.
I agree. Okay, go ahead, Ruben.
I just want to circle back to what this gentleman brought up regarding, Vonda earlier was saying she was removing members on the page who don't live here. And I'm just wondering how the gentleman he brought up, Tom Teller, is still allowed to be on the Facebook page if he does not show up as having property or being a real name. How is Tom Teller
We're
allowed?
about to lose a lot of people off that side.
I told you that 3 weeks ago.
You don't have to tell me it.
You know how much.
Okay, so
We're working on it.
here's what we're gonna do. We'll never get this meeting finished, so we're gonna go around the room, because we're gonna introduce ourselves to Jenny. So, I'm gonna go ahead, yes, sir.
Okay, James Baker. Be one of the other 10 that are running for the board.
Okay,
My thing is I'm just glad to see that we can have a discourse, we can continue at it, but I do have, once a question is asked, it's been addressed, just, maybe we'll have to follow it. But we don't need to ask the same question 10 times, because this is a wonderful community, and we can get along. It's just, we have to have this regular discourse.
all right, thank you, James. End of the table, yes, sir.
Me?
Yes, you.
My name is Kenny. I'm a board member, lived here 33 years. Same King, or something.
And beside you is,
Rick Long, freshman board member.
okay,
I'm Tom Brown, I'm the board member. I'm Bill Brown, partner.
Big John, Swanee side.
and Glenn Hunter.
Charlie Thompson, Swanee Cat side, board member, your IT guy, and love your idea. I just added a poll to our website while we were talking to ask the members if they, do you feel that Boat Ramp Park on Columbia County side should be open to swimmers during low traffic times? And I made a request that everyone actually look at the park before voting. Don't know that they will, but thank you for your suggestion, and it was nice to meet you.
And your candidate.
Oh, and I'm a candidate.
Yeah.
I'm Vonda Ackerson, also a board member and also a candidate.
I'm Carol Strickland, I'm the bookkeeper, and I'm just filling in for Hilda and for Vicky. I'm an owner also out here, so I'm a member. Here's the president.
Good print. Good print.
Okay, we'll come back up here and, yeah.
I'm Joe Nano. I'm part of the board. I have been on the board since 2006. I'm not running this time. I'm tired. I have tried to go as close to legal and watch what we're doing, which is why I abstained from the agenda because it wasn't posted 10 to 14 days prior to the meeting. And that's supposed to be posted so that we will know what we're voting on. I could not vote on the budget because it was presented to me and I haven't had a chance to really look at it well. So it's an abstain. And I have to do that. I have to do that if I don't have time enough to look read, and understand.
Thank you,
That's
John.
my position.
Yes, sir. Charlie?
Oh, Charles Amick, I live here. I run my mouth a lot.
And we love each other.
Great.
I'm Judy Brent.
I'm Skip Clemens. And contrary to what people have said on Facebook about me, I'm not an attorney. Okay? I've been accused numerous times.
You
I'm
just
not an
stayed on
attorney.
holiday.
I'm not on the board.
So have I.
Okay.
I'm Kathy Riker, I am also on the board seat.
David Morgan, member, not Ryan
Susan Johnson.
Bob Russell.
That's my wife.
Laura Hunter.
It's fine.
Larry Siri.
Stephanie Watts. I'm Bonnie Blackwell, member since September last year. Oh, it's our year anniversary being here. Yes, been a year.
I'm Ted Blackwell as well. My question was, you said there's 800 members?
820.
800.
855.
And
855.
this is our first meeting we've been to. Is this a large meeting or a small meeting?
It's a lot here.
There's a lot here tonight,
Yes.
and there's 800 members here. What are you gonna do if 200 show up?
Well,
What's
we'll
like the
have
largest
to,
meeting y'all have had?
yeah, we'll have to make some accommodations, I assure you.
What's the largest meeting y'all have had?
Maybe 100.
100?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, because this is a month before an election, and
Right.
there's 30 people in here.
Sometimes it's a one line.
You know, what got 100 people here?
Well, we've actually gone to other locations.
I'm just curious.
We've gone to
Just-
other
I mean, I'm not
locations.
being-
We've gone to other locations.
I got you, okay.
Yes, sir.
I mean, 100's a lot to what we have here, and it's pretty important for a month before an election.
Yes.
And I'm just curious,
Well, I'm glad, let me say something to that. I'm glad that y'all are coming because, 2 years ago, we had no participation. So,
I'm sure.
I'm
I've been in the union, and it's like 30 or
That's good.
500, so.
All right, so we've been around the room. Yes, sir, did you introduce yourself?
I'm Eric Sweet Apple.
We
I
love
do
you,
like
Eric.
one of your ideas about maybe letting members vote on big things
We do, and that was January.
that pertain to us as like a park ranger, because that's something I don't agree with. I don't think we need it. Maybe 3 weekends out of the year? I don't know. I go down to Point Park a lot, and there's nobody ever down there but me and the otters and the birds.
Okay,
So I just wish we could vote on bigger things like that.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we've been around the room. Our next meeting will be October the 11th. And on Saturday, October the 8th, we'll have the election and the barbecue. So with that being said, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. How do you?
We're adjourned.